I was in a car accident and covered in bandages. I felt pain all over my body and was mentally pushed to the limit. I never expected to end up like this. What pushed my heart to rock bottom in such a situation was none other than my husband.
Huh? Accident? You were careless, weren't you?
Don't say it like that, please. Anyway, I was in the hospital for a while and I wanted you to bring me a change of clothes.
Why me? Who even said you can go to the hospital in the first place?
Huh? What do you mean?
Don't slack off on household chores just because you're injured. Crawl back home if you have to.
The moment those heartless words were uttered, something that had been holding me back suddenly vanished. I couldn't let it consume my mind and body any longer. It's impossible. I can't bear it. If it has come to this, I have no choice but to resort to my last option. In order to carry out the plan, I returned home covered in bandages, completely unaware of the unforeseen events that awaited me thereafter. My name is Fiona, and I'm 30 years old. I work for a fairly prominent pharmaceutical company in the industry. Back when I was job hunting, I fought desperately to get into this company. The work is certainly not easy, but it's equally rewarding, and the benefits are substantial. In recent years, we've had a year-round busy season due to the outbreak of a new virus. The sole reason I've been able to keep going in those days is because my husband, Philip, is there with me. Philip and I were members of the same pop music club. We were just friends at the time. However, after becoming working adults, we reunited at a club alumni gathering and hit it off. During our student days, I couldn't imagine being in a relationship with him. But becoming working adults can change your senses and values, I suppose. The time I spent with Philip was invaluable in allowing me to be myself. While the new virus was spreading and everyone was anxious, we got married. We thought we'd support each other and live without giving up for a lifetime. Or so I believed. However, those feelings gradually started to fade away. We're approaching our second year of marriage. I can't honestly say that our relationship as a married couple is in good shape. When did it all turn into this? Looking back, it feels like it started with something trivial. It was about 6 months ago that I began to feel uncomfortable with my husband's attitude. As my overtime continued and I couldn't spend time on household chores, my husband said this to me.
Fiona, can't you come home a bit earlier?
I finally came home after 10 p.m. after working in overtime. I was exhausted, both physically and mentally, and my husband's words really got to me. However, I knew I shouldn't let my emotions get the better of me. So, after taking a deep breath and looking straight at my husband, I honestly expressed my feelings. I want to come home earlier if I could. But, as I mentioned before, the current circumstances are tough, and work is really busy.
But does that mean you should prioritize work over our family every single day? Lately, you haven't even had a proper dinner.
I've already apologized for that, haven't I? You said you understood.
There's still a limit to everything. You've been relying on deliveries every day lately, and you haven't even had time for a bath when you get home.
If you're going to complain so much, then couldn't you help out a bit, Philip? I'm not a housemaid. We're a married couple, so a little... I said that much, and my husband visibly frowned. He glared at me as if my words were somehow wrong. I was left speechless, and my husband continued without mercy.
Marriage doesn't have anything to do with it. Since your position is wife, it's your job to take care of the house.
What's that supposed to mean? Do you still believe that women should do housework in this day and age?
Huh? Of course. Housework is women's work. My mom has been doing it for ages.
Your mother was a stay-at-home mom, right? I worked just like you, Philip, remember? Even so, why would you say something like that?
Don't compare yourself to me. You have an easy job in a cushy office. I'm stressed out because I have to scrape by every day.
I am indeed shocked by my husband's words. We spend every day together, and he should understand me better than anyone else. I never expected to hear such things. Philip, is that really how you see me? I thought you understood that I'm working hard every day. Rather than anger or sadness, I felt an inexplicable frustration welling up. In the midst of daily intense work, my husband, who should prioritize me, was pushing me away. This incident marked the beginning of a gradual deterioration in our marriage. But the hard work never calmed down, and that made my husband even more angry. Every time I came home from work, Philip would get sarcastic with me.
Don't pretend to be busy when you're not doing much work anyway. Maybe you're actually having an affair. You can't even do the housework, and you're a lousy wife for prioritizing work.
And so on. I would return home exhausted from work, only to face my husband's harsh words. His words became weapons that tore through my emotions, and my heart was undeniably wearing down. The other night, on my day off, I was asleep without an alarm from the hard work I've been doing every day. I would wake up to the sound of my husband yelling at me.
Hey, it's already past 8 o'clock. How long do you plan to sleep?
My husband forcefully pulled back the covers and showered me with harsh words from above. I, on the other hand, had been working hard for a while and was not feeling well. I lay there and softly addressed my husband. Sorry, Philip. I'm not feeling well, so I'd like to rest today.
Huh? Even on a weekday, you're not doing housework, and now you want to slack off on the weekend?
Slack off? I'm just unable to do much on weekdays because of my job, right? Besides, I do the minimum, like washing dishes and laundry.
What about cleaning? The fridge is empty.
I usually catch up on those things on the weekend. I'll get a good rest today and do them properly tomorrow.
Huh? Using work as an excuse to neglect household chores? You're a lazy wife.
What? I can't help but let out a voice like that when my husband makes a heartless comment. No matter how much he doesn't like me, would he say that much to his wife? Even I was shocked by this. No, I might have felt more anger and disbelief than shock. Despite being equals as a married couple, my husband criticized me, and I was thoroughly fed up with it. Eventually, he woke me up, and I had to do the housework. Due to my poor health, I pushed myself to the limit, both physically and mentally, to complete the chores. I had reached the limit of my patience with married life with my husband. On this day, as usual, with my work keeping me busy and my mind and body not getting enough rest, I made my way to the office with unsteady steps. Then, from behind me, I heard a cry. Watch out! Huh? By the time I realized, it was already too late. I had collided with a car that ran a red light and was forcefully thrown to the ground. Ouch! My consciousness remained, but my vision was blurry. I could see people gathering around, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I had just been in a car accident. As I calmly pondered this, my vision grew darker. Amid fading consciousness, I felt like I could hear an ambulance siren in the distance. After a while, when I woke up, I found myself in a hospital bed. Looking around, I realized I was in a hospital room. A nurse was informing the attending doctor about the situation. I was hit by a car that ran a red light, and the impact knocked me to the ground. I had lost consciousness. Fortunately, there were no broken bones, just some bruises and sprains. My body was wrapped in bandages all over, and I was in pain from the impact, but I could still move to some extent. The doctor mentioned that I was fortunate that it hadn't been more severe, and I couldn't help but feel grateful for my luck. When I checked my smartphone, I saw multiple missed calls from my colleagues. I immediately returned the calls and explained the situation. During this, I couldn't help but wonder why there had been no contact from my husband. Normally, in the event of an accident, wouldn't one expect family to be informed? When I asked the nurse, she reassured me that they had already contacted my husband. So why hadn't he reached out to me even once? Checking my phone, I saw that it was already past 7 p.m. My husband should have finished work and been home by now. Could it be that there was some mix-up and the notification had gone to someone else? Otherwise, there's no way my husband wouldn't have contacted me. After all, his wife was in an accident. Telling myself this, I called my husband. After a few calls, I hear my husband's blunt voice saying, "What the hell?" He may not have known about the accident, I thought, and I quickly broached the subject. "You know, I'm actually in the hospital right now."
"Oh, you had some kind of accident, didn't you?"
"Huh?"
"I received a call during the day, honestly, causing trouble for others."
My husband's words make my head spin. The fact that he knew about my accident left me in shock. What does this mean? He knew I had an accident and yet he didn't come to the hospital or even contact me? Certainly, when one hears that their family has been in an accident, it's natural for anyone to panic and lose their composure. Still, I used to think that in such a situation, one would desperately try to maintain their composure and rush to the hospital, praying for safety. But the reality was different. Well, not just reality. It's more accurate to say that my husband was different. He didn't seem worried about my accident at all, as if it were someone else's matter. That's not all. He even went as far as saying that I'm causing trouble for others. Certainly, my accident must have caused inconvenience in various ways. But it's not solely my fault. I felt like everything was being blamed on me and found myself responding in a strong manner. Why are you behaving like that when you know your own wife had an accident?
Huh? Accident? You were careless, weren't you?
Don't say it like that, please. Anyway, I was in the hospital for a while and I wanted you to bring me a change of clothes.
Why me? Who even said you can go to the hospital in the first place?
Huh? I couldn't understand the meaning of my husband's words, and a foolish voice escaped from me. What do you mean? In response to my question, my husband said confidently,
You still don't get it? You getting into an accident is a big nuisance to me too.
Nuisance?
Don't slack off on household chores just because of a minor injury. Crawl back home if you have to.
The moment those heartless words were uttered, something that had been holding me back suddenly vanished. I couldn't let it consume my mind and body any longer. I can't take it anymore. If it has come to this, I have no choice but to resort to my last option. All right, I'll come back tomorrow morning. When I said that, my husband from the other end of the phone said,
Buy some alcohol on your way back,
he said, dismissing me. After that,
You must absolutely come back tomorrow. If you lie, I'll make you quit your job.
Messages with a threatening tone like these were sent. I was thoroughly fed up with him, as he seemed to think only of himself and not of my well-being. I had been considering divorce for a while, so I had packed my belongings to some extent to be prepared for whatever happened. I explained my situation to the doctor and convinced them to discharge me. Of course, they tried to stop me, but if I didn't end it now, I would regret it for the rest of my life. On my way home, I got a divorce agreement from the courthouse. Since I was wearing bandages, people's stares were painful. But I couldn't afford to care about that now. With my whole body throbbing in pain, I finally made it to the front door. Suddenly, my smartphone made a notification sound.
Come back by early afternoon.
It was a message from my husband, even though he said that I had already arrived in front of the house. I inserted the key and opened the front door. Inside, there were a few surprising people standing there. Huh? Why? The people standing there was my husband's parents. Due to the outbreak of the new virus, I hadn't seen them for a while, making this a reunion after about 2 years. Puzzled and standing still in that moment, my mother-in-law said, Oh, Fiona, what's up with that bandage? Huh? Oh, actually, I had an accident yesterday. An accident? And it was just yesterday? Are you okay? Normally, shouldn't you be staying in the hospital longer? Well... I glanced briefly at my husband, who was glaring at me with an intense expression. He probably didn't want his parents to find out that he had forced me to return. In the past, I might have chosen not to say anything to avoid upsetting my husband, but now, it was different. I had already decided on divorce, so I no longer cared about my husband's feelings. I took a deep breath and confessed everything to my in-laws. Dad, Mom, I'm getting a divorce from Philip. Upon hearing those words, not only my in-laws but also my husband opened their eyes wide and exclaimed, Huh? Fiona, what's happening all of a sudden? My mother-in-law asked me with a bewildered expression. At that moment, I took out the divorce agreement form I had obtained and slowly began to speak. For the past 6 months, our married life has been nothing but suffering. Despite both of us working, I've been burdened with all the household chores. When I wasn't feeling well and just wanted to rest, he would yell at me. What? Are you serious? Philip would do such a thing? That's not all. The reason I came back today is because Philip told me to crawl back home. What? Philip? Did you really say that to her? Confronted by my mother-in-law, my husband showed a startled expression and quickly put on a forced smile to begin justifying himself desperately.
What are you talking about, Mom? There's no way I would do something like that, right?
So what then? Are you saying that Fiona is lying?
That's right. You think I'm the kind of person who would do something that terrible?
My husband seemed to think that he could somehow get his parents on his side, but it was all in vain. I opened the messages that my husband had sent me last night and showed them to my in-laws. As they looked at the smartphone screen, their faces quickly turned bright red.
You? What have you done? As a man, as a human being, this is unforgivable. You've become a disgrace.
My father-in-law grabbed my husband's collar and shouted. My usually reserved father-in-law was getting emotional, and it was the first time I had ever seen him like this. With my husband frozen and unable to say anything, my father-in-law coldly stated,
Fiona is a strong person. I've refrained from interfering in your marital issues, but this time I can't stay silent. A scumbag like you has no right to be Fiona's husband. Get a divorce quickly. What are you saying, Dad? Shouldn't you be defending your son in a situation like this? Don't play around. Is there any reason for me to defend you? You've caused enough suffering to Fiona, and it's embarrassing as a parent. You're no longer a part of our family. You scum. Never show your face again. Wait, Dad.
Even though my husband pleaded, his father paid no attention. In that moment, I packed my things. My father-in-law graciously allowed me to move into an apartment he owned. My father-in-law owns several properties. The apartment we now live in actually belongs to my father-in-law. He had been subsidizing the rent up to this point, but due to this incident, my husband was being evicted. He was disowned and would have to manage on his own income, which wasn't exactly a generous salary. My husband even had to pay me alimony for emotional distress. Of course, I've hired a lawyer and the divorce proceedings are underway. I just need a little more patience until I'm done with him. My husband was very emotionally damaged by this incident, leading to repeated unauthorized absences from work. It seemed he was on the brink of losing his job and his ability to support himself. From my point of view, it doesn't matter anymore. Whatever life he leads is no longer my concern. I wanted him to suffer at least as much as he had made me suffer, if not more. On the other hand, I was living a peaceful life in the apartment my father-in-law provided. He told me I didn't need to pay rent, but I felt it was only fair to pay half. I planned to move out once things had settled, and I was back on my feet. Until then, I would allow myself to rely on my father-in-law's kindness. I hadn't been able to build a good relationship with my husband, but thanks to meeting him, I had the opportunity to meet wonderful in-laws. I was grateful for this connection and hoped to lead a life that I could be content with from now on.